Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer Podcast coming at you, as always, this wonderful Tuesday morning / afternoon, depending on where we're sitting, which vantage point, with myself, Gary Striker, and, as always, the Qooligan. How are you, Qooligan?
It is always morning where I live, Gary.
It is always, the sun is always rising on you, as that it's
Sure.
wonderful.
Why not?
Sure. Wonderful. So we have, it's sort of getting into obviously as the European leagues have come to an end, and obviously
They're all put
the
to
sun
bed.
is set on there. Yeah, the sun is
Yes,
set on
it
those.
has. Yes, it has.
We're going to be covering, just catching up on the two Champions League finals that happened both in UEFA and in, is it the CONMEBOL? Oh, no, sorry, CONCACAF.
No,
Always get those
please.
two confused.
Oh, my.
CONCACAF, always get them removed, yes. Two absolute blowout finals as well. We'll be covering those. And then, of course, we'll be looking back at last weekend's MLS results, and also as well the Jägermeister round two.
Round two.
Second shot of Jägermeister. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we will get into it. But before we do that, Qooligan, I think it would be obviously important for us as it's coming closer.
It is.
To plug
I could smell it in the air.
To plug our other show that we have,
like the whiff of a distant fire,
or the fire, or I would say the smell of freshly cut grass, but that's obviously a matter of preference. But it is,
or we could just go very, very like sciencey and just call it petrichor.
Petrichor.
A petrichor is the smell the smell that you have after a rainstorm.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Another irrelevant factoid from the Qooligan.
There's nothing irrelevant whatsoever about petrichor.
It is delicious. It smells amazing. Anyway, FIFA Club World Cup. That's where I was trying to get to before you were so rudely interrupting me about petrichor. We are launching of course, in alignment with this upcoming FIFA Club World Cup that is going to be launching in a little under 2 weeks. So we're having a dedicated standalone fan cast, a show for the fans, by the fans, where Qooligan and I every morning will be getting on. We will be going to some games. We will have members of our podcast network also going to games and be bringing them on, bringing you what it's like inside the stadium, what the experience is. We're going to get access to mix zones so we can go and speak to some players as well. I'm looking forward to hearing Qooligan speak to some of the Dutch players in Dutch. We definitely need to have that if we can find any and get you there. There is a dedicated show called the FIFA Club World Cup, a global showdown with the Qooligan and myself. So check it out. We have dropped the preamble episodes as well, talking about all the various groups and then the particular teams in them, breaking down who are the teams, their background, how they qualified, style players to look out for, wonder kids to look out for, and any other interesting factoids that the Qooligan had inside of him were very good to sort of come out. And there's a lot of beer references as well to those relevant cultures and communities as well. So yeah, so anywhere you get your podcasts or your shows, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things, you could find it. Also, good news as well, we will also be on the DAZN app. We've managed to find a partnership with those guys. So it will be exciting, fun, and a busy summer for us.
True.
Okay, 3.5 minutes in, plugs out of the way, introductions, preamble. Let's get into this. It's there.
What?
Two finals this last weekend.
I mean...
Which one?
I think back to my days when I was reading the classics, and it struck me. It's a tale of two Champions Cups, right? It was the best of games. It was the worst of games, and it all depended on where you were coming and where you were going. It did feel extraordinarily Dickensian to me. How we were talking about the haves and the have-nots. Right, the gilded lilies, so to speak, and then the poor downtrodden masses in the mud. Let's start with the UEFA one with Paris Saint-Germain versus Inter Milan. We had the interviews guys, lovely men, very passionate, and they must have felt awful watching that.
Oh, I did. I felt for them.
I felt a lot of sympathy for them.
That they were very, very cautious going into any predictions, saying, "Oh, it's going to be a close one. It's going to be really tight. The goalkeepers are going to define it." Wow,
yeah,
that wasn't the case. That was not the case.
No, it just. I mean, it really was just a beatdown almost from the first whistle. PSG took control, they took the reins, and that was that. You couldn't. I mean, I don't even think I'm not even sure how anybody could even see because there was so much like smoke from all the flares and the various things and everything. Certainly in the second half, but wow,
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that specific, because this one came as a shock to me. Inter's a good team. This is not some fluke squad that just kind of lucked their way in. They dismantled Barcelona. They effectively took care of Bayern Munich. Right? I mean, this is a solid squad that didn't have a good day or just got outplayed. Gary, what do you think?
I mean, they definitely got outplayed. There was no two ways about it. I mean, the interesting thing is as I would look at this, is Inter, if you look back now at their season, they will consider it an absolute failure, right? They just missed out on Serie A on the last day to Napoli. They got to the final of the Champions League. And I also believe that they didn't do well in the Italian Cup as well. So
they got knocked out of it. They got knocked out of the cup fairly early.
Quite early as well, so they could focus on those two, and they were on, and they had all, it's looking at that team, as you say, they were really looking strong. I was not expecting that result by any stretch of the imagination. It was an absolute mauling. They absolutely, I mean, and I think it was, and again, like Inter they had a very good goalkeeper in Sommer. And their defense is solid as well. They have a very good solid, but when like Hakimi scored that first goal with a tap in, it was just like, that wasn't a defensive mistake. That was basically sort of the strategy of Luis Enrique, I think, basically being able to manipulate sort of his BSG team to obviously sort of have Inter Milan sort of finding themselves sort of out of position as well. And then once that first goal came in, you knew that they needed to come for it. But then they came in 8 minutes later with another goal with Doué, right? He really impressed me. I know he's sort of another one to come.
There is a gentleman right now whose he came from essentially out of nowhere, unless you were already following PSG. And suddenly, stratospheric. The likelihood of him staying at PSG, he might stay one more year, but he's going to get plucked. He's going to get nabbed out of that team at some point.
Who's going to pay him more money? I mean, who's going to take who? Where's Real Madrid, Barcelona?
He's only 20 years old.
Yeah, but he'll start. He'll be starting for Paris, I think.
Yes, I know. But there's going to come a point where it gets boring beating up on Angers and Reims
and Lille and Brest and all these guys and Marseille
There comes a point where
you want to challenge
just doesn't that's not fun anymore.
Champagne problems, Champagne problems. But yes.
Well, it is a champagne problem, but yeah.
I do agree. But yeah, I thought PSG just looked so ruthless. Again, it was almost as if there was an advantage of like cantering through the Liga, and then they can just save everything for the Champions League and then really turn it on. And remember, they were really close to not making the knockout phases or qualifying through that, right?
That's a lot of the press that I read was pointing that fact out. They said you can look at their dominance in the later stages, but also tell yourself this: if this new format had not been in place, they would not have been there. Because if they played with that type of form that early in the regular older Champions League format, they were gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had 7 points in 6 games.
Yeah, it was
not good.
Dangerous. It was
right out of 18. That is not a good run of form.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're going to have run of form, you want it to be at the end and not at the beginning, right? You do just enough. That's tournament 101. Do just enough to get to the next level, then build your form.
Yeah.
They did that to a T. It's absolute perfection.
Yeah, I thought they were absolutely magnificent to watch. It really was a spectacle. I thought Kavica as well, seeing his goal as well. He is rapidly becoming a favorite player of mine. I am in awe of that guy. He is an incredible soccer player. Absolutely fantastic.
And I do think that what was interesting is with that statement win, they suddenly became the favorites in the Club World Cup.
Of course,
I don't think a lot of people hadn't been giving that a lot of thought, but everybody looked at that and said, oh, hello. If they can do that, they can, right? So now not only has PSG won the continental treble, right? So they've won their continental treble, which is a remarkable achievement unto themselves.
Yes.
Inter Milan lost a continental treble. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could look at it that way. Not just with this staggeringly and heartbreaking loss, but also just in their performance in the league. So yeah, PSG's got to be coming in. They've got to be coming in hot with all the pundits going, oh yeah, it's all PSG, all this. Of course, the rubber will have to meet the road, and we'll have to see how it all works out. So.
Yeah, we'll see what team they field and all the rest of it. But you think they go there with full strength?
Once you're beginning to look at, for PSG, they're going to start approaching. They're on the high 50s in their games now, and by the time, if they make it out of that group round, which they should, you're going to start getting into 60 games. That's 60 games in a season, right? That's a lot of a lot of sore limbs.
But they do have a very, very competent squad as well that they can rotate. It's not like it's not like one of these teams where it's sort of like there's 12, 15 decent players and the rest are unreliable or untrustworthy. I mean, the fact that they're able to bring on Barcola as well, who's another wonder striker as well. Hernandez, just looking at that. Zaire Emery as well. We featured him and called him out as sort of one of the young sort of wonder kids as well. I mean, it's and then even look at Kimbepe as well. There's a lot of like French internationals in this team in this squad as well. So, and God knows also as well some of the talent that they have lurking in the youth team as well. So I agree. PSG will be red hot favorites for this, and Inter, like, they're going to go in there limping into this, as you say, because they have winning Serie A is a lot harder. Or trying to just get to where they do is probably a lot harder in terms of winning Liga, right? So again, I worry for Inter now as well.
I also think that Inter is going to be very dangerous because they're a wounded dog, man. If you're going to be if you kick somebody enough, they're gonna lash out. So I feel bad for anybody who's going to be facing Inter in those group stages because they will be out. They will be out to prove something.
They will be up for it. Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
So, and then, I mean, I just didn't imagine that 5-0. I mean, the other scary statistic just looking at as well is like the sheer volume of shots as well, right? They had 8 big chances and 23 total shots. So again, this wasn't sort of
against a stereotypically Italian
defensive team,
strong defense.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, you got to give, I think, a lot of credit to Luis Enrique as well for sort of, I think this is his second season now where he's turned them around and they got rid of Mbappe, got rid of all the noise and all the sort of the circus that surrounds that. And you do have to wonder, I know Mbappe's won a World Cup and obviously sort of, done it with France, but, is he a problem? I know there's talk of this. He's amazing. He scores lots of goals, but they've really done a great job of turning it around and basically making this team a team rather than a group of Galacticos and megastars as well who have issues in fighting. So, So well done, PSG. Commiserations into Milan and obviously the boys over at the interviews as well. I didn't want to reach out and say anything for fear of coming across as, No, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Enough of this. Let's go to the other 5-0 beatdown because this is the one that really threw me for a loop.
This one, wow, yes.
And we're talking about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is the Champions League of the North American, Caribbean, and Central American Confederation. We had Club America, one of Mexico City's 2 big players. And Vancouver Whitecaps, who was surprising.
Was it not Cruz Azul? Club America played against LAFC.
Thank you, Gary, for correcting
to get into the Champions League. Yes,
what a terrible! That is an
you're confusing your Mexican teams playing American teams
and MLS teams.
Yes,
I was of course referring to Club America versus LAFC, which we can put off to the side for now. You're correct. It was Cruz Azul, the other Mexico City. So at least I got the Mexico City clubs right. So. Yes. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Mental error. But no, Cruz Azul versus Vancouver Whitecaps. And I always thought Cruz Azul was the favorite. I think anybody who studies the history of this particular fixture, who knows Cruz Azul's history and they're playing at home, is going to give them a slight edge in this fixture. But I did not expect what I saw. And that was a tense, nervous, that was the most uncomfortable I had ever seen Vancouver play. And it never stopped. They never got comfortable.
They didn't. Yeah, I mean, Vancouver are, objectively probably one of the best MLS teams at the moment this season as well, if not the best, right?
They are a very strong side. Yes,
they are. And so, is it just because they had a bad day at the office? I mean, again, the stats we were just discussing now, right? Cruz Azul had 18 shots. Vancouver had 0 shots.
Zero.
Not one chance.
Yeah, no
right?
shots.
Not one. So they had,
it's hard to win when you don't take a shot.
Yeah, well, you can't, if you don't shoot, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take, as the saying goes. But
bingo.
So do you think it was Vancouver just really were just not on it and just off the boil? Or do you think that Cruz Azul are that much better in general? If they were to play that game again or 3 times, do you think they get similar results, or do you think it would be closer?
I think it's the former and not, right. I think, no, excuse me. It's the latter. I think it was a bad day at the office, and I'll give a couple of reasons why. They mentioned that when Vancouver played Inter Miami back in, that was a two-leg fixture. Vancouver looked very, very nervous in the first 20, 30 minutes of that game too. And the coach commented about how they were playing the occasion and not the game.
The game, yeah.
And it looked as if they got slightly sidetracked by the occasion, but they just never got the opportunity to come into the game, because Cruz Azul, when they get up, they will step on you. They do not let up. They are ruthless. When you and you can see that the first 2 goals came off mistakes. Vancouver was trying to build from the back. They were trying to force their game on Cruz Azul, and they were having none of it.
Yeah.
They were jumping in front of the passes, intercepting, and then we talked about it earlier. The finishes that Cruz Azul had were outstanding. But they were also lucky in the sense that many times those types of shots from those distance under those conditions don't go in. They had every single one of those just hit a post, go in, avoid the goalkeeper, go in. I mean, I was sitting there watching it going, wow. I mean, damn. One, incredible job, Cruz Azul. Well done, well played, deserved win. No, I don't want to, certainly, I don't want to come across as being, disrespectful of Cruz Azul's effort and achievement, because that was incredible.
Yeah.
But there was a slight element of luck. Element of things that went their way.
Yeah. And again, this is, look, I don't think that Vancouver are that far behind, 5-0 behind Cruz Azul. So
they're not on a regular day. Yeah. I think they still lose, but I think it's closer.
Yeah. And so, does this mean, if Vancouver, again, I agree. I think they played the occasion and not the game, and they probably got starstruck and they got caught on the back heel, and then they're just fighting and went into a complete death spiral. But I mean, if Cruz Azul play in the MLS, do you think they just run away with it completely and they're that dominant? Because, I mean, I'm not saying that Vancouver are that dominant, but
this is just single game phenomenon scenarios, right? I mean,
finals.
This is the tale of the finals. Sometimes they go your way, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I have to say, I just felt really, really sympathetic to apparently 700 Vancouver fans went to Mexico City. That's all they could get into the stadium was 700. There was a very small sliver of them.
they put them up in the top as well.
Camera kept going. I mean, that just had to be awful. You go and there's not a lot you can do when you're down 4 goals after 40 minutes. It's going to be one hell of a long second half.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah,
and it really was. And the referee gave 0 added time. Literally blew the whistle in 90 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
as rightly so, because there was no reason to prolong that. Let's also acknowledge Cruz Azul. Interestingly, they had no game for 2 weeks prior to that game, and the game before was a very rough and difficult loss to the aforementioned Club America in one of their important cup matches. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but it was a very important cup match, and they lost to Club America, which they hate doing at any time, but when something's on the line, it stings even worse. So they had 2 weeks to go back and think, right, let's recover.
Yeah.
Let's pull this thing back. Whereas Vancouver had 3 games in that same period of time.
Yeah.
And Berhalter was also suspended.
that was the
And
other. I was wondering, like,
that could have played. Listen, Berhalter could not have staunched that wound. There's no way that Berhalter would have fixed that situation. But I think he would have made them a little bit more. I think he would have made them a bit more competitive.
Didn't Berhalter get suspended for some stupid as well, like lashing out, or it was like a stupid second yellow card as well?
No. He got two yellow cards in the two in the two games.
Yeah.
One of those yellow cards was not. It was in the 47th minute of the first half, and it was. He just
Messi or something like that. Didn't he kick Messi? I think I remember.
I don't know if he kicked Messi, but he did something that he probably should not have done. Like, in the sense that you have to have enough news and enough knowledge about the game to know that's a bad time to try and commit a foul. You're just going to put yourself behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
So
now, well, congratulations, Cruz Azul. So
that is their seventh win.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's their 7th CONCACAF Champions win, tying Club America. So
Club America, there we go. And so Club America have obviously qualified for the Club World Cup because of their. They lost. Sorry, LAFC did as well. But then this means
now you made the mistake. This is good. We're balancing each other out. This is beautiful teeter-totter podcasting right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is how you do it.
Lowest common denominator. Yes, that's it.
Agreed. No, that was the LAFC match, the $10 million match.
Yeah.
And again, Club America this time they had to travel to LA to play LA on their home ground, which I think was a distinct advantage. Why they could not find a neutral venue for that is beyond me.
Yeah.
I do suspect that FIFA really wanted LAFC.
I think
to be in there, and
another American team for TV
saying anything, set it up so that they would have as many advantages they had. But still, LAFC had to do it, and they took extra time. They had to do it in extra time, and of course, it had to be Denis Bouanga, right? Their Gabonese, wonder kid. Wow, yeah. I love the way he plays. He's so scrappy and so sparky. I love it. And I think either team making it would have been appropriate, but with LAFC making it, there's a certain Hollywood angle now that FIFA is going to have a chance to play up, and they already have the Rose Bowl is one of the venues, and that's a local LA side. I don't think LAFC play in it because they're in a different group, but so it goes.
Well, that's it's all coming together as well. So it's there. So does this mean Cruz Azul, now that they've won this CONCACAF, do they qualify for the next Club World Cup, which will be in 4 years' time? I imagine they'll be able to
2 years' time. 2 years' time.
Is it in 2 years' time?
Yeah, it's not on a 4-year cycle; it's a 2-year cycle.
It is. I didn't know that. Okay, that'll be interesting. All right. Well, we'll see where that.
So yes, they will be one of the teams that qualify.
The teams
along with the 2024 winners and the 2023 winners.
3 winners as well, right? So they get into it. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So that brings the finals, and obviously, so that brings Europe, all the European leagues
to a close. That's the CONCACAF Champions League to a close.
Done. And so
put
now
that to bed.
Europe is sort of resting, and obviously all of the I'm seeing all of the feeds of all the Premier League players and all the players in Ibiza and Marbella and all those wonderful places as well, and I hope they're enjoying themselves. But while we were here last Saturday, we had an MLS match week. This last Saturday that passed. Now, I don't know if I noticed something different and unique about it. I put on, obviously through Apple TV, and they had the ability to do the multi-screen. Do you know the Premier League have started doing this, where basically you can watch it's a Galazzo show style. Yeah. They did a Galazzo show style where they were sort of cutting and pasting cutting into where all the action was. Now, I didn't realize this, but my subscription with the MLS pass had lapsed. So all of a sudden they put all of this stuff in front of the paywall, which is an interesting signal. And I do wonder if if Apple are changing their strategy a little bit just to start drip feeding that out of there.
I didn't realize it was in front of the paywall. Well. That's fascinating. I do know that the Sunday game, right, Seattle Sounders and Minnesota United, was put in front of the paywall for certain cable subscribers. So, for example, if you were an Xfinity subscriber or maybe a Cox subscriber, if you're back east, you could get access to this game through a special channel. And that's how I watched that game, which was a banger, by the way. It was an amazing game. But the rest of it, I didn't quite realize that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Okay.
So obviously, I mean, where do you want to go to first? I think there's only one place you really got to start with.
There's more than one. This was actually a really interesting and I think critical match week for a number of reasons. But you start with your big pick, and then I'll go with mine, because I think
it's got to be Galaxy, LA Galaxy, finally getting off the mark as well, right? That's
absolutely.
Was.
I would agree with that.
That was, it's almost like the second coming as well. It was a miracle. I mean, they've gone so long. They've arrested, obviously, they weren't going to hit thankfully, they're not going to hit that record of the most games without a win, which I believe was 16. And I think they got up to like 13 or 14, I believe it was.
No, they had 16.
They had the 16. Record. Oh, they had
it's their record.
Wow. Okay. So, they've arrested that. Thankfully, it didn't carry on.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, and apologies to the Real Salt Lake team, obviously, who we work with as well. I mean, it wasn't the hardest of competitors or hardest of challenges. However, they did get off the mark.
They've fallen short against subpar sides before, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, sure, they were at home. They got the benefit of an early goal. And this time they were just able to hold on to it. I mean, listen, it was bound to happen. No team, and especially a team with the talent that they have, it was incongruous that they went 16 games without a win. That was a bit anomalous, and I think this shows exactly why. Because they played perfectly fine. And Real has a big problem in scoring. They just do not score. Yeah. Right? They're not great at putting the ball in the net. So, I mean, congratulations to LA Galaxy. It's about time. The other game that struck me, though, was the Miami game, because the Miami Columbus Crew, these were right next to each other. This was 4th and 5th, right, in the East, going after it, and two very strong sides. And Miami just whooped their ass. I mean, it was a genuine old-fashioned beatdown.
Yep. They suddenly, all of a sudden, the boys from Miami all of a sudden woke up as well. Messi with two good goals, very good goals. You see, one of them was a chip as well. There was a bit of a mistake as well that conceded as well. My old pal Luis Suarez as well, who showed that he's still got some goals in him as well. It wasn't.
Messi and Suarez in the last two games have 4 goals and 3 goals respectively. Yep. That's 7 goals between the two of them in the last 2 games. I don't know about you, but now I'm beginning to rethink Inter Miami and how they're going to perform inside the Club World Cup, because obviously they got invited by Mr. Infantino. Yes. And so I'm thinking, wow, if that's the way you're going to play building in, good on you. Way to, and it wasn't as if they were playing, I mean, I don't want to disrespect Toronto or Montreal, but they were playing a solid, strong Columbus Crew team that ironically is higher ranked in the CONCACAF ratings than Inter Miami is. So, right?
Yes.
Go figure.
Yeah. That was
telling. That was telling. But there were also some shock performances, and not the shock of winning LA Galaxy, but for example, San Jose Earthquakes lost to St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis they went 14 games or 13 games without a win. And all of a sudden, San Jose came into town and they're like, okay, good. And they started scoring. Wow. Okay. I was surprised. DC United, who's sitting in 12th in the East. I mean, sorry, DC, you're a gutter team. Beat FC Cincinnati, who were sitting in 2nd.
Yeah.
Right.
There was some shocks, yes.
The other one that really jumped out at me was Sporting Kansas City, who have done squat this year. Suddenly came in and went to Houston and said, "Thank you very much, sir. I'm gonna give you 3."
Yeah, but Houston,
where did that come from?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. What about, the other shock, not shock as well, San Diego. This sugar high is not wearing off. They are now second in the Western Conference. And obviously I know Vancouver they're only a few points behind. Vancouver's still got 2 games in hand because obviously their distractions with the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But this is a legitimate run. This is not just sort of a bounce and sort of,
this isn't fluke. This is not a fluke. Yeah. This is not LA Galaxy not winning 16 fluke. No, this is San Diego actually putting together a solid roster and showing up week after week after week. Yeah, they're doing really well. They're doing really surprisingly well. I still say, hey, Kevin De Bruyne, I know you listen. So seriously, think about San Diego.
Think about
San Diego. The weather is great. The weather is fantastic, and
Didn't I see that? I thought I saw a rumor Napoli are also kicking his tires as well. In Italy, you could go to Napoli as well.
And again, if Napoli comes calling, you got to go to Napoli. I would not begrudge him that move. But Manchester, if you're going to pick an MLS side, pick San Diego over Chicago. That's all I'm saying.
That is true.
Give it a thought.
Is true. Yes,
give it a thought.
Indeed. Okay, and then just looking through it, I think we have.
There are some games trickling in. There are some games trickling in before they take their hiatus for the Club World Cup, which happens next Friday. There's some midweek fixtures going on, but
I really do like these midweek fixtures as well. The way they spread them out a little bit as well, because 15 games is a lot to cover. 7.5, 15 games is kind of, it's a lot. I do like the way they spread them out as well. And they're going to start, you can see what's going to happen. MLS and Apple are going to start windowing these and have midweek games and Monday night games and Friday night games. You can see this coming. But in terms of, there's a few more games trickling in. I'm just looking at as well. Next Saturday, we've got DC against Chicago. And then obviously you've got Colombo against Austin. And then LAFC against Sporting Kansas, which is interesting. LAFC are playing.
And Vancouver's also playing, right?
Yeah,
Vancouver's also got a fixture because they've got to go through and get their stuff.
They've got to catch up those games as well that they've missed they haven't been as well. So that's probably why they're doing those catch-up games, right? And then all of a sudden, and then it's...
And the same thing, Seattle Sounders are playing Vancouver, right? And so Seattle Sounders are in the Club World Cup. So they're playing on the 8th, and they turn around and have their first game on the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, it's, it's... Not a lot of rest for them, but I think I do think it's an appropriate thing. And I think they moved a lot of those fixtures up a bit for some of those teams so they could give them that gap before they go off to the tournament. Makes sense.
They give them the gap, but also as well, they want to play catch up and get everyone on the same level of matches as well. So that's probably why, again, they're fixing schedules as well.
That Seattle Sounders game against Minnesota, what a cracker that was. I mean, that was a game that featured 4 goals scored in 13 minutes.
Wow. Just, looking at that.
Second half started, I think it was 0-0. Second half started. And all of a sudden, by 53rd minute or 55th minute, 58th minute, there were 4 goals that had been scored. It was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
Electric. Wonderful. Okay. So there'll be a few more games to trickle in on the MLS, and then obviously it goes on hiatus as well. There's the US Gold Cup as well. So you've got the Club World Cup, you've got the Gold Cup happening at the same time. There's also the the European Euros for the women's Euros as well during the summer as well.
Which doesn't affect MLS, but thank you for mentioning it.
Just in terms of the summer of sort of tournaments and things going on as well.
There's international duty for other sides, right? There is also, in addition to Gold Cup, there is CONCACAF qualifying for World Cup that also kicks off. And so it does make sense for them to take a small hiatus, but whether they need a whole month, it's going to...
Well, I feel a little bit for LA Galaxy as well, just as they kind of got the bounce and the win that they needed. You think, okay, let's go on a bit of a roll here, and then they're going to get stopped and on their sort of they're going to go on a break.
It's still better than going in with that stigma of not having won a game.
Yeah, it is true.
At least this time you're going in on the high.
That's true. That's just true. Exactly. Okay. And then just moving through, and then of course filing around, and then now of course we had the second round of the USL Jägermeister Cup.
That's right. And the USL does not stop during this period, so you will continue to get all of the USL action every week throughout the Club World Cup. And Hooligan will be bringing it to you. We'll be covering it.
Beautiful. So so which picks do you want to go for in terms of the second round?
The Jagermeister, of course, it's done a little differently. You've got 6 groups. Every USL championship and USL one side is eligible. They're all participating. So that means that you have 38 teams. So it doesn't actually square out perfectly. There are 6 groups, 4 of which have 6 teams and 2 of which have 7 teams, and that's how it all works out. Then they play each other twice. So they're not every team doesn't play every other team. They play 4 matches against a randomly drawn set. And then you have the best there with points advances into the next stage. So it's kind of a loosey-goosey, different type of tournament. And what's nice about this is that you get to see USL Championship sides play against USL 1 sides. And even though they are in different legs of the pyramid, realistically, Championship teams and USL 1 teams are fairly even when it comes to skill levels and performances. And in this specific week, there were 7 matches that featured USL against USL Championship, or 1 versus C, as I call it.
Okay. Yeah.
And the USL 1 side won 3 out of the 7. So that's actually pretty good.
Okay.
It's not horrible. And in every single case, they were competitive. They only lost by 1 goal.
Yeah.
They lost in overtime with kicks from the mark. Because what Jagermeister does, you must have a winner. So if a game is tied, each team gets 1 point, and then they have a penalty shootout for a bonus point, which gives you 2 points for what I call a draw win or a overtime win. In hockey, they call it an overtime win. Yeah. You can just call it that.
Okay.
What jumped out at me at this one? The strength of USL 1 was the first thing that I noticed. I already mentioned that. So, like, for example, Portland, Hearts of Pine, a team that I got a soft spot for, completely destroyed Detroit City 4-2.
They won 4-2, right?
That was a beatdown.
Yeah.
They also had 5,600 people watching that game in Portland.
Okay.
Wonderful. It's great to see such a big support network coming out for USL 1. What else jumped out at me? Greenville Triumph. Not one of the stronger teams in the USL 1, beat Charleston Battery. That was a big upset.
Okay.
Charlotte Independence beat Lexington in kicks from the mark. I was like, okay,
4-2.
Good for them. I saw Rhode Island get a win. That was nice. Rhode Island was able to beat Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of really just crushing last-minute losses, right? So South Georgia, Tormenta, they were up with 1 goal and then conceded 2 late in the 79th minute and I think in the 94th minute, and they ended up dropping that game. So that's tough. Naples lost. They have a rivalry with Miami FC.
Of course,
they ended up dropping and losing that one 3-2.
Yeah.
Monterey Bay beat Orange County 3-2, which was big because Monterey Bay came out so strong at the beginning of the USL Championship season. And they were at first place for like 3-4 weeks. They have just been dropping like a lead anchor in a bag, right? And they just were going down. And they managed, this is going to be a little boost for them going in later on. And then, I got to call it out.
I was going to say, you're saving the worst to last.
AV Alta playing Oakland Roots, right? It's a team that I support, and I watched the game.
Of course. Yes.
And Roots, first half was meh, wasn't great. And then in the second half, AV Alta took, I'll admit, that first goal by AV Alta was a little lucky. The ball took an unfortunate bounce off a keeper's shoulder and went in. Could have just as easily gone out, whatever. Oakland rallied. They got 2 goals back. They were looking good. They had complete control of the game. And inexplicably, in the 95th minute, literally the last touch of the game, referee's looking at his watch, gave a corner. They got it out for another corner. Referee allows the second corner, and boom, AV Alta kid. An unmarked kid walked in, waltzes in, heads it home.
Like, cruel. So right,
and then of course they go
minutes.
and lose the shutout, and they lost the shutout as well.
Yeah.
So the end result of that was Oakland Roots pulling the trigger, unfortunately, on poor Gavin Glinton, who was their coach. He had signed a contract back in November after leading Oakland in an interim capacity. After Noah Delgado was let go in April of 2024, and he stepped in as an interim, managed to get them into the playoffs. He turned them around. They went on a big tear. They kind of faded. went limped into the playoffs, lost the playoffs, had a terrible start this season, have not performed well. I think this was the last straw. The Roots are not out of it, right? They're sitting 11th in the West. That's one spot off of the bottom.
Yeah.
But they're only 3 points behind. So they're one win away from clawing their way into playoff contention. So
okay.
I think the executive sides were just like, we need to change. We need to do something to salvage the season and try to make it
bounce,
but
playing for the bounce by the sounds of it as well, right? And that's
true.
And so, and then who did they replace him with, or is that?
No, they actually replaced him with. You could have put a list of names, Gary, in front of me, and you could have included this individual's name, and I wouldn't have ever thought about it. His name is Benny Feilhaber. And if that name sounds familiar, and I'm guessing it's not going to sound familiar to many people, but he is a former U.S. men's national team player. So he actually earned 44 caps for the U.S. men's national team as a midfielder.
Okay.
So he's got credibility. He also played for Hamburg, Derby County, Aarhus in the Danish Superliga, and then also in the MLS, New England Revolution, LAFC, Colorado Rapids, and Sporting Kansas City. And it's that latter one that he's most associated with, because he scored 34 goals and 38 assists for Kansas City in his career. He also became the coach of their academy team, the Kansas City 2.
Okay.
And he was there for quite some time. He left in November of 2024 and then took perhaps the most unusual path that I've ever seen for a coach. He actually joined a USL 2 team, the Des Moines Menace.
Wow. Okay.
So the Des Moines Menace gathered together a bunch of 40 plus veterans, all U.S. men's national team and MLS veterans, and pulled them in, put them on the roster. And of course, what's the first team that the Des Moines Menace played in the U.S. Open Cup?
Of course. Yeah.
Kansas City 2, the team that he coached.
Yeah.
And so he actually got on the field. They won that game. And then in their subsequent game against Union Omaha, he drew a penalty. He converted a penalty. They did lose the game. And then he retired from Des Moines Menace. And now he's the only coach in the USL that can say that he scored a professional goal in the same year that he's coached the USL championship team. So he's a young guy. He's in his 40s. He has what I like about him is that he's got academy background. So he's into developing talent.
That's good.
The Roots do have an academy, and there's some really good kids in that academy. And so I'm hoping that this, even though the season now, it's not a wash, he has to play the season. I'm hoping that he gives opportunities to some of these younger kids to bring them into the fold and get them used to this type of experience. Because, playing in the Coliseum, playing for the Roots is a good thing. So
that's wonderful.
Welcome, Benny. Welcome to the Oakland family. And
you got a fan of Hooligan Soccer, that's for sure. Until you fuck it up, and then of course we'll turn on you and
I'll be asking for entirely true. But that's the way it is with everybody. So.
But in the meantime, welcome, Benny. Welcome.
Yes, indeed.
Wonderful.
Well, I think
Hooligan,
that's time, Gary. The referee is looking at his watch and saying it's almost time to blow the whistle.
Yeah, I think so as well. Well, let's leave it at that as well, and we will be back later on this week. We'll see. Well, I think there's a whole bunch of international stuff coming up this week as well. There's a lot
happening, so I'm sure we'll find time to bring it to all of our listeners.
Yeah, perfect, cool, wonderful. Well, Qooligan, as always, thank you very much. Until next time.
Thank you, Gary. Peace.